For 50 years, a man went to the same bank every week. Each time he deposited money for a Vietnam trip, but he never went. Why? And what was that money really for? This isn't just a story about saving money. This is a story of guilt, loyalty, and unfinished missions. The story of how a promise given by Walter Hudson, who saved $50 every week for 50 years, shaped an entire life. What they found when he died shocked everyone. $72,000 in a note. Find Danny Reeves's grave and tell him I couldn't bring him home. Welcome to Vietnam Stories. Before we begin this incredible story of loyalty and sacrifice, tell me in the comments which city you're watching from today. And if you believe promises like this should never be broken, hit that subscribe button and help us keep these stories of brotherhood alive. Walter Hudson went to First National Bank every Friday at 2 p.m. in his old gray Chevrolet pickup truck. At this small bank in Detroit, Michigan, everyone knew Walter. For 20 years, the same teller, Linda Matthews, had been serving him. "Good afternoon, Mr. Hudson. For the Vietnam Fund again?" Linda asked routinely. "Yes, Linda, $50 as always," Walter replied calmly. As Linda counted the money, she observed Walter. The man had age spots on his hands, but determination still sparkled in his eyes. He had been repeating the same routine for 20 years without fail. "You've reached a total of $72,000, Mr. Hudson. When are you going this time?" Linda asked curiously. "Soon, Linda, very soon." Walter gave the same answer every time, but Walter never went. For 20 years, Linda had been asking the same question, and Walter had been giving the same answer. He wasn't bothered by this situation. It was as if time had no meaning for him. His neighbor, Helen Garcia, would talk to him over the garden fence. Walter's habit made her very curious. "Walter, what are you going to do when you go to Vietnam? Such a long trip at your age," Helen asked with concern. "I'll see old friends. I have very important business there," Walter replied vaguely. "Spend this money on yourself. Buy a nice house, go on vacation," Helen advised. Walter smiled, but his smile was melancholic. "This money isn't for me, Helen. It's for someone else," he replied mysteriously. Helen didn't understand this answer. She didn't know Walter's family. She knew he had never married, never had children. So who were these someone else? Walter Hudson had been sent to Vietnam in 1969 at 19 years old. He was a young, idealistic, and fearless soldier. There he met Danny Reeves. Danny was from Chicago, 20 years old, just 1 year older than Walter, a young and vibrant kid. The two had become friends instantly. "Walter, what will you do when this war ends?" Danny had asked one day while sitting in camp. "I don't know. Maybe I'll get married, maybe I'll go to college. What about you?" Walter had replied curiously. "I'm going to marry Sarah. I left her in Chicago. As soon as the war ends, we'll get married immediately," Danny had said dreamily, his eyes shining. Danny constantly talked about Sarah. He would show her photograph at every opportunity. "Walter, if you could see her. Red hair, green eyes, the most beautiful smile, and so smart she's studying nursing. She loves healing patients," he would say. "I want 2 children, a girl and a boy. The girl will be named Emily, the boy Michael. You'll be my best man too." Danny would describe his future plans in detail. These words had been etched into Walter's heart. Danny saw him not just as a friend, but as a brother. There was a special bond between them. Danny kept his mother's ring in his pocket, a small, elegant gold ring. "It'll fit Sarah's finger perfectly," he would say every time he showed it. "Walter, maybe you'll meet one of Sarah's friends. We'll have a double wedding," Danny would say jokingly. Walter loved listening to these dreams. Hopeful stories kept them going in the middle of war. It was April 1971. Their tour of duty was almost over. Both were making plans to return home. Danny was especially excited. "Walter, 2 weeks left. I'll meet Sarah at the airport, get down on my knees and propose," Danny had said happily. Danny had taken out a small box from his pocket. "My mother's ring. I never took it off. It'll fit Sarah's finger perfectly. That day they had a routine patrol mission. Village checks in the Mekong Delta. It wasn't a dangerous area, a routine, boring mission. Walter and Danny were walking side by side. "Walter, you'll come to my wedding when we get home, won't you?" Danny had asked, hopefully. "Of course, Danny. I'd be honored to be your best man," Walter had replied with a smile. "The wedding will be in Chicago. Sarah's family wants a big wedding. We want one too," Danny had continued describing his plans. At that moment, the surrounding bushes had moved. The enemy had set an ambush. Walter's experienced military instincts had kicked in. "Danny, get down!" Walter shouted. When the gunfire started, Walter had hit the ground. Danny was beside him, but a minute later he realized Danny wasn't groaning. "Danny! Danny!" Walter screamed. Danny had been shot. In the chest, in the stomach. He was bleeding. His eyes were opening and closing. "Walter, take me to Sarah. Please take me home," Danny pleaded while spitting blood. "Hold on, Danny. Help is coming. The war is over. We're going home," Walter said in panic. Danny's eyes were closing. His breathing was getting difficult. "Walter, promise me. You'll take me home. Tell Sarah. Tell her I love her. Tell her I'm ready to have our wedding," he whispered with his last breath. "I promise, Danny. I'll take you home," Walter said through tears. But Danny could no longer hear. His eyes, full of hope that youth provides, had closed forever. Danny's body was never found. Bomb explosion, bushes, confusion. Walter had searched for him but couldn't find him. There had been other explosions in the area too. Military reports stated missing, presumed dead. When Walter returned home, his first task was to go to Chicago and find Sarah. He knew Danny loved Sarah very much. He had to inform her. When he found Sarah, the young woman was waiting for Danny's return. She was making wedding preparations. "We lost Danny in Vietnam. We couldn't find his body," Walter said painfully. Sarah cried, "But he was coming. We were going to get married. He was writing me letters every week." "Is he still there? In Vietnam? Maybe he's wounded, maybe," Sarah asked hopefully. "Yes, he's there. But I'll find him, Sarah. I promise I'll find him and bring him home," Walter said determinedly. This promise determined Walter's life. From that day on, Walter had only one purpose: to find Danny and bring him home. After 1975, Walter had tried many times to go to Vietnam, but it was impossible. There were no diplomatic relations between the countries. The war was still too fresh. When relations began to normalize in the 1990s, Walter started making plans, but the costs were very high. Plane tickets, accommodation, guide expenses. That's when he started saving money. "I'll find Danny. I promised," Walter would say to himself. Sarah had married someone else years later, but she never forgot Walter. She would call once a year. "Walter, are you still looking for Danny?" Sarah asked. "Yes, Sarah, I promised him. I'll keep this promise," Walter replied determinedly. "Walter, so many years have passed. Maybe now," Sarah tried to suggest. "No, Sarah. A promise is a promise. Danny saw me as a brother. I can't betray him," Walter replied sharply. Walter never married. He never had children. He dedicated his entire life to searching for Danny. Every Friday he would go to the bank, deposit money, saying Vietnam trip. On his wall hung a large map of Vietnam. The Mekong Delta was marked with a red pen. On his desk were old military photographs, dozens of photos of Walter and Danny taken together. On the nightstand in his bedroom sat Danny's last letter that he had written to Sarah but never sent. Walter had found it among Danny's belongings and never opened it. "This belongs to Sarah," he had thought. Walter would look at those photographs every evening. Danny's smile, his hope-filled eyes. "I'll keep my promise, Danny. I'll bring you home," he would murmur. At the beginning of 2024, Walter's health rapidly deteriorated. Heart problems, shortness of breath. He was 74 years old. He was hospitalized. "Mr. Hudson's heart is very weak. He may not have much time left," the doctor told his neighbor Helen. Walter, we need to call your family. Who do you have? Helen asked with concern. I have no family, Helen, but there's Linda at the bank. Call her. She needs to do something important for me, Walter said, breathing with difficulty. When Linda came to the hospital, Walter was very weak. His eyes were dull, his voice trembling. Linda, I couldn't find Danny. I couldn't keep my promise. Walter started crying. Mr. Hudson, you might not be the one to find him, but someone else can search. You did everything you could for him. Linda tried to comfort him. Linda, will you do this? Will you search for Danny? Please, this is my last request, Walter asked hopefully. I promise you, Mr. Hudson, we'll find Danny, Linda said sincerely. Walter died peacefully that night. His last words were, Danny, I'll bring you home. Everyone was surprised by what they found in Walter's house. Research about Vietnam, correspondence with travel agencies, maps, Danny's photographs. Linda read Walter's will. Dear friends, the money I saved for 50 years was to find Danny Reeves's grave. Danny died in April 1971 in the Mekong Delta. He was from Chicago and had a girlfriend named Sarah O'Brien. When Danny died, I promised him I would find him and bring him home. I searched for 50 years and couldn't find him. My request from you: take this $72,000, go to Vietnam, search for Danny Reeves. If you find him, tell him Walter tried to keep his promise. He wanted to bring you home. Also tell Sarah, living in Chicago, Danny still loves you. This is my last wish, Walter Hudson. P.S. Danny's last letter is on the nightstand. Deliver it to Sarah. Linda finished reading the will through tears. Helen was also in tears. Walter lived this for 50 years. He never lived for himself. Helen sobbed. Helen, Linda, and several neighbors took action to fulfill Walter's last wish. First, they found Sarah. Sarah was now 70 years old, married with children. I know Walter has been searching for Danny for 50 years, but did he ever find him? Sarah asked. No, he couldn't find him, but he saved money. Now we're going to search for him, Helen explained. Sarah cried. I'll come too. I'll come to Vietnam too. I need to see Danny too. But Sarah, this is a very tiring journey, Linda said with concern. No, I'm coming. Walter lived for him for 50 years. I can live for him for a few days too, Sarah replied determinedly. Within a month, a small but determined group formed. Linda, Helen, Sarah, and 2 volunteer Vietnam veterans. At the end of 2024, the 5-person group went to Vietnam with the $72,000 Walter had saved. Plane tickets, accommodation, guide expenses, everything was covered with Walter's money. In the Mekong Delta, they worked with local guides. 1971 April, American soldier Danny Reeves, they explained to the local guide. They searched for days. They went from village to village. They talked to elderly villagers. Most didn't speak English. They communicated with the help of translators. American soldier, 1971, they would ask. Many villagers remembered. But which soldier? There were too many American soldiers at that time. On the 3rd day, an elderly Vietnamese man approached them, in his 70s, wrinkled face but sound mind. American soldier? 1971, I remember, the old man said. Which soldier? His name was Danny Reeves, Linda asked with the translator's help. Danny. Yes, young soldier, very young. Villagers found, buried, the old man replied in simple English. They followed the man. He led them to an old cemetery outside the village, a small, neglected cemetery, wooden crosses, stone pieces. Here, American soldier. Villagers found, buried, showed respect. The old man pointed to a simple wooden cross. On the cross, faded letters, Dr. 1971, Danny Reeves. Sarah knelt at Danny's grave. After 50 years, she had found her boyfriend's grave. Crying, she read Walter's letter. Danny, Walter searched for you for 50 years. He wanted to bring you home. He had promised. You were never forgotten. Walter never married, never had children, because he was trying to keep the promise he made to you. They placed white roses on the grave. Vietnamese villagers also came. They held a respectful ceremony. The villagers lit candle. "Soldier, good man," the old man said. "We respect, we bury with honor." That evening, Sarah read Danny's last letter that was never sent. "My dearest Sarah, we're returning home tomorrow. I missed you so much. When I return, we'll get married immediately. My mother's ring is ready. I'll give it to you. I want 2 children, do you remember? Emily and Michael. Walter will also come to the wedding. He'll be my best man. You'll love him very much. He's a good friend, a reliable man. I love you more than anyone in the world. I'll stay with you forever, forever with love, Danny." Sarah finished the letter through tears. After 50 years, she was reading Danny's last words. A small memorial was erected in Walter's neighborhood in Detroit. Neighborhood residents collected money. Walter Hudson, 1950-2024, he kept the promise he made to his friend for 50 years. Below it, Danny's photograph. Danny Reeves, 1949-1971, died in Vietnam, never forgotten by his friend. The memorial is decorated with flowers every year on April 25th, the day Danny died. Walter Hudson's story shows the power of a given promise. For 50 years, he saved $50 every week. He dedicated his life to this promise. He never married, never had children, because he had an unfinished mission. The promise he made to his friend kept him alive. And finally, even after his death, that promise was kept. Danny Reeves was found. Walter's message was delivered. His love reached Sarah. True friendship is stronger than death. A true promise can wait 50 years. Walter Hudson proved this. His story shows that some promises live forever. And now I ask you, have you ever known someone like Walter Hudson? Someone who kept a promise no matter the cost? Someone who lived their entire life for another person? Share their stories in the comments. Because at Vietnam Stories, we tell not just about heroism, but about the unbreakable bonds that define our humanity. If this story touched you, subscribe and share, so that stories of loyalty like Walter's are never forgotten. See you in the next video, and remember, the greatest honor is keeping your word even when no one is watching.